I stood there in the middle of my retirement party, surrounded by balloons and laughter, but my world was shattering. My hands shook as I watched her. My own daughter-in-law, the woman I'd welcomed into my family with open arms, slip something into my drink when she thought no one was looking. I felt a chill run down my spine, my heart pounding like it might burst. How could she do this to me? I'd loved her like my own child, given her everything, and now this betrayal? In that moment, I made a split-second decision that changed everything. I switched the glasses without her noticing, and what happened next? Well, it was karma at its finest. But how did we get to this point? Why would someone I trusted try to end my life for money? Stick with me, and I'll tell you the whole heartbreaking story. If this story touches your heart, please subscribe and stay with me to hear how this ends. Drop a comment telling me where you're watching from. You might see your own family in this story. My name is Eleanor Thompson, and I'm 72 years old. I've lived a full life, one filled with love, hard work, and sacrifices that I never regretted, until recently. I was born in a small town in Ohio, the daughter of farmers who taught me the value of family above all else. I married my high school sweetheart Robert when I was just 19, and we built a life together that I was so proud of. Robert worked as a mechanic, and I was a school teacher for over 40 years, shaping young minds and pouring my heart into every lesson. We had one son, Michael, who was the light of our lives. I remember the day he was born like it was yesterday, the way his tiny hand wrapped around my finger, and I promised him I'd always be there for him. After Robert passed away from cancer 8 years ago, I threw myself into being the best grandmother I could be. Michael had married Vanessa about 15 years ago, and they gave me 2 beautiful grandchildren, little Emily, who's now 10, and Jacob, who's 7. Oh, how I adored those kids. I'd babysit them every weekend, baking cookies in my cozy kitchen, reading bedtime stories, and taking them to the park where I'd push them on the swings until my arms ached. My home was always open to them, a modest 2-story house in the suburbs that Robert and I had paid off after decades of saving. It wasn't fancy, but it was filled with memories. The family photos on the mantel, the quilt I sewed for Michael's wedding, the garden out back where I'd plant flowers every spring. Vanessa. Well, at first I thought she was a blessing. She came from a big city background, always dressed so elegantly, and she seemed to love Michael deeply. I welcomed her with open arms, teaching her family recipes and helping her through her pregnancies. I even loaned them money when they were starting out, $20,000 from my savings to help buy their first home. I never asked for it back. That's what family does. Over the years, I'd slipped them extra cash for the kids' school supplies or vacations. My retirement savings weren't huge, but I'd built up a nest egg of about $300,000, plus the house worth another $400,000. I planned to leave it all to Michael and the grandkids, with Vanessa included, of course. Why wouldn't I? She was family, but looking back now, there were little signs I missed. Vanessa would sometimes make snide comments about my old-fashioned ways, or roll her eyes when I'd share stories from my teaching days. She'd push Michael to work longer hours, saying they needed more money for a better life. I brushed it off as stress from her job. She was a real estate agent, always chasing the next deal. Michael adored her, and I wanted him to be happy. We'd have family dinners every Sunday, and I'd cook everyone's favorites: pot roast for Michael, apple pie for the kids. Vanessa would compliment the food, but there was always an edge to her smile, like she was tolerating me. Still, I loved her. I even helped plan their anniversary parties and watched the kids so they could have date nights. As I approached retirement, I was excited. After 40 years in the classroom, I deserved a break. I planned a small party at home. Nothing extravagant, just family and a few close friends. I'd invite my neighbor, Mrs. Gladys Peterson, who's been my confidant since Robert died. She's 68, with short gray hair and a no-nonsense attitude, always ready with a cup of tea and wise words. And there was my grandson, Jacob's teacher, Mr. Daniel Ruiz, a kind 35-year-old man who'd become like family after helping Jacob with his reading struggles. But mostly, it was about celebrating with Michael, Vanessa, and the grandkids. I had no idea that party would become the turning point, the moment when the cracks in our family turned into a chasm. I felt a subtle shift in the air those last few weeks, Vanessa calling less, Michael seeming distant. But I told myself it was nothing. How wrong I was. That's when everything changed for me. It started a few weeks before the party, when Vanessa came over alone one afternoon. I was in the kitchen, stirring a pot of soup when she breezed in. Her sleek black hair tied in a ponytail, wearing her usual fitted blazer and jeans that screamed successful professional. She was 38, about 5'6", with an athletic build from her yoga classes, sharp green eyes that could cut through you, and a smile that never quite reached them. "Eleanor," she said, plopping down at the table without a hug, "we need to talk about your will." I froze, the spoon hovering mid-air. "My will? Why now, dear?" I asked, trying to keep my voice light. I'd mentioned updating it casually, but nothing serious. Vanessa leaned forward, her manicured nails tapping the table. "Michael and I are worried about you. You're getting older, and with the house and your savings, we just want to make sure everything's protected. For the kids' sake." She pulled out some papers from her bag, legal documents, she said, to add her as a co-executor. "It's standard," she assured me, her voice smooth as silk. I trusted her. She was family. So I signed them, my hand a bit shaky from arthritis. Little did I know, those papers gave her more control than I realized. The shock hit me like a wave when, a week later, I overheard her on the phone in my guest room. I'd gone upstairs to fetch a blanket for Emily, who was napping downstairs. Vanessa's voice drifted through the door. "Yes, the old bat signed it. Once she's out of the way, the inheritance is ours. No, Michael doesn't know, he's too soft. I'll handle it at the party." My heart stopped. Out of the way? What did that mean? I backed away, my legs weak, tears stinging my eyes. Was she talking about me? Her words echoed in my head all night. I couldn't sleep, replaying every interaction. Had she always seen me as an obstacle? The woman I'd treated like a daughter? Then came the retirement party. I decorated the living room with streamers, set out platters of finger foods I'd made myself, deviled eggs, cheese trays, my famous chocolate cake. About 20 people came. Michael in his casual button-down, the kids running around excited, Gladys with her warm hugs, and Daniel bringing a bottle of wine. Vanessa arrived last, looking stunning in a red dress, but her eyes were cold. "Congratulations, Eleanor," she said, air-kissing my cheek. As the evening wore on, I tried to enjoy it, but her words haunted me. When she offered to get me a drink, "Let me mix you something special," she said with that fake smile. I watched her closely from across the room. There she was, at the makeshift bar in the kitchen, her back to the crowd. I saw her glance around, then slip a small vial from her purse and pour something into my glass of punch. My blood ran cold. Poison? Was this what she meant by out of the way? For the inheritance? I felt sick, my hands trembling as I approached. "Here you go," she said, handing it to me with a toast. But in that split second, as she turned to grab her own glass, I switched them. My heart raced. What if I was wrong? But deep down I knew. She clinked glasses with me, smiling triumphantly, and took a sip. I pretended to drink mine, watching her. Minutes later, she started coughing, her face turning pale. I don't feel well," she muttered, clutching her stomach. The room went quiet as she collapsed into a chair, vomiting into a napkin. Michael rushed to her side, panic in his eyes. "Call an ambulance!" someone shouted. As they loaded her into the stretcher, her eyes met mine, wide with realization. I couldn't believe it had come to this. My own daughter-in-law trying to kill me for money. The betrayal cut deeper than any knife. How could the woman I'd loved like family do this? And what would happen now that karma had stepped in? I didn't know it then, but this was only the beginning of the heartbreaks. After the party, Vanessa was rushed to the hospital. The doctors said it was some kind of toxin. Nothing lethal, thank goodness, but enough to make her violently ill for days. She claimed it was food poisoning, blaming my cooking, but I knew better. Michael was distraught, staying by her bedside, while I took care of the grandkids at home. Emily asked why Mommy was sick, and I had to bite my tongue, saying it was just a bug. Inside, I was reeling. How long had she been planning this? I started digging quietly, going through old papers in my study. That's when I found the first clue. Bank statements showing unauthorized transfers from my account. $5,000 here, $10,000 there, all to Vanessa's name. My savings were dwindling. She'd used the documents I'd signed to access everything. I confronted Michael privately a few days later, my voice shaking as I showed him the papers. "Son, look at this. Vanessa's been taking money." He stared at me, his face paling. Michael was 42, tall at 6'0", with a sturdy build like his father, short brown hair starting to gray and kind hazel eyes. He wore his usual polo shirt and khakis, looking exhausted. "Mom, there must be a mistake," he said, but I saw doubt flicker in his eyes. Vanessa, recovering at home, denied it all when he asked. "Your mother's confused, darling. Old age, you know." She said it with a patronizing smile, lounging on the couch in her silk robe. That gaslighting stung. I'd always been sharp. But Michael believed her, or wanted to. He suggested I see a doctor for memory issues. My own son, doubting me. It felt like a slap. The isolation started subtly. Vanessa convinced Michael to limit the kids' visits. "Eleanor's too frail to babysit," she'd say. One weekend, I waited all day for them, but they never came. When I called, Vanessa answered, "We're busy, Eleanor. Maybe next time." I heard Emily in the background asking for Grandma, and my heart broke. I sat in my empty living room, staring at the toys I'd bought, tears streaming down my face. How could they keep my grandbabies from me? I'd raised Michael to value family, but Vanessa had him wrapped around her finger. Gladys noticed my distress when she came over for tea. She's 5'3", petite with short gray hair in a bob, warm brown eyes, and always in comfortable slacks and a sweater. "Eleanor, something's wrong," she said, taking my hand. "Tell me." I poured it all out, the poison, the money, the isolation. She hugged me tight. "We'll figure this out." Then came the property grab. Vanessa showed up unannounced one morning, papers in hand. "Eleanor, it's time to think about downsizing," she said, her tone all false concern. "This house is too big for you. Sign this and we'll sell it. Put the money in trust for the kids." It was a deed transfer, putting the house in her and Michael's name. I refused, my hands clenched. "This is my home," I told her firmly. She sneered, her sharp features twisting. "You're being selfish. Think of your family." When I said no, she stormed out, but not before whispering, "You'll regret this." That night, I found my mailbox stuffed with nursing home brochures, anonymous, but I knew who sent them. The threat was clear: sign over the house or be shipped off. I felt so alone lying in bed, remembering Robert's laughter in these walls. How had my life come to this? The public humiliation came at Emily's school play. I'd been invited by Daniel, the teacher. He's 5'9", average build, with neat black hair and glasses, always in button-ups. Vanessa had tried to uninvite me, but I went anyway. There, in the auditorium, she cornered me in front of other parents. "Eleanor, You shouldn't be here. You're embarrassing us with your forgetfulness. She said it loudly, implying I was senile. People stared, whispering. I felt my cheeks burn, but I held my head high. I'm here for my granddaughter, I replied quietly. Inside, I was crumbling. Later, Daniel pulled me aside. Mrs. Thompson, I know you're sharp as ever. What's going on? I confided a bit, and he offered to help, saying he'd seen Vanessa's controlling ways at parent meetings. The medical neglect hit hardest. I had a minor fall in the garden, twisting my ankle. Michael promised to take me to the doctor, but Vanessa canceled the appointment. It's nothing, she texted me. Just rest. Days turned to weeks, my ankle swelling, pain shooting up my leg. I hobbled around, relying on Gladys for groceries. When I finally went alone, the doctor said it needed a brace. Delayed treatment made it worse. Vanessa's response? See, you're too old to live alone. It was all part of her plan to declare me incompetent. I discovered more. Emails on Michael's computer, he'd left it open during a rare visit, showing Vanessa researching guardianships. She was plotting to take full control. One wildcard moment gave me hope amid the pain. Jacob sneaked a call to me from his room. Grandma, I miss you, he whispered. Mom says you're sick, but I know you're not. Hearing his voice, I cried happy tears for the first time in months. It reminded me why I had to fight, not just for me, but for them. But the breaking point came when I found the vial. Searching Vanessa's purse during a tense family dinner, I'd invited them to talk. I spotted it, the same one from the party, half empty, labeled as rat poison diluted for pests. My stomach turned. This wasn't imagination. It was attempted murder. If this story breaks your heart like it does mine, please hit that like button and tell me in the comments if you've ever felt betrayed by family. The discoveries piled on. With Gladys's help, we hired a private investigator. A quiet man named Mr. Harold Jenkins, 55, balding with a mustache, in trench coats like old movies. He uncovered Vanessa's debts, gambling losses of over $50,000, hidden from Michael. She'd been using my money to pay them off. Armed with evidence, I confronted her alone first, my voice steady despite the fear. Vanessa, I know about the poison, the thefts, everything. She laughed at first, denying it, but when I showed the bank records, her face hardened. You old fool, she spat. You were supposed to be gone by now. That inheritance is mine. I've earned it putting up with you. Her words cut deep, confirming every fear. That's when I finally found my voice and took action. I called a family meeting inviting Michael, the kids, with a sitter, Gladys, Daniel, and even Mr. Jenkins. We gathered in my living room, the same place where the party had happened. Vanessa arrived smug, thinking it was another plea. But as everyone sat, I laid out the evidence, bank statements, the vial. I'd kept it safe, phone records of her calls to shady lenders. Vanessa tried to poison me at my retirement party, I said, my voice trembling but strong. She wanted the inheritance for her debts. Michael gasped, turning to her. Is this true? She stammered. It's a misunderstanding. But Mr. Jenkins presented photos of her buying the poison. The room erupted. Michael stood, face ashen. How could you? He demanded. Vanessa broke down, admitting partial truth. I was desperate. The debts. I didn't mean to kill her, just make her sick enough to sign over power of attorney. But the lies unraveled. Daniel revealed he'd overheard her berating Emily for wanting to see me, and Gladys testified to my soundness of mind. Michael, tears in his eyes, called the police right there. Vanessa was arrested for attempted assault and fraud. The poison was traceable and the transfers illegal. The consequences came swift. Legally, Vanessa faced charges. She pleaded guilty to lesser counts, getting probation and community service. But the judge ordered her to repay every cent, over $80,000 by then, including interest. Financially, she lost everything. Her real estate license revoked due to the fraud, her car repossessed for debts. Socially, word spread in our community. Neighbors whispered, friends distanced themselves. Michael filed for divorce, citing the betrayal. He told me later, "Mom, I was blind. I'm so sorry." The kids were devastated, but relieved. Therapy helped them process. Vanessa ended up in a small apartment, alone, her glamorous life shattered. Karma had indeed destroyed her plans. For me, it was liberation. I reclaimed my home, updated my will to protect the grandkids directly, and felt a weight lift. Watching Vanessa's downfall from afar, I felt pity mixed with justice. She'd shown remorse in court, apologizing through tears, but it was too late for our family. Michael moved closer, and we rebuilt, dinners together, without her shadow. I even volunteered at the school again, sharing my wisdom with kids like Daniel's students. Looking back now, I understand that betrayal can come from those closest to us, often born from their own pain or greed. Vanessa's actions stemmed from her hidden addictions and pressures, but that doesn't excuse them. I've lived long enough to know that silence only breeds more suffering. Speaking up saved me. Today, I cherish every moment with Michael and the grandkids, gardening in peace, baking those cookies again. Life isn't perfect. The scars remain, but I found strength I didn't know I had. If there's one thing I want you to take from my story, it's this. Honor your elders, for karma watches, and love should never be a transaction. Before you go, I want to hear from you. Where in the world are you watching this from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. And if this story touched your heart, please subscribe for more stories of strength and redemption. Have you ever experienced family betrayal or seen an elder mistreated? Share your thoughts in the comments. Have you ever wondered if forgiveness is always possible, or if some bridges are meant to burn for our own good? The stories shared on this channel are entirely fictional and created solely for entertainment purposes. We believe in honoring our elders and treating all family members with love and respect. These stories are meant to inspire reflection on family relationships and the importance of compassion. Any resemblance to real people, events, or families is purely coincidental and unintentional. These narratives carry no specific cultural, political, or religious implications.